Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Ilhan Kolko of ProGlove, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. Today's safety tip is to focus on ergonomics. Workstations and warehouse layouts need to be at their most optimal design. Prioritizing technology at the intersection of worker safety and efficiency is the key to maximizing human worker well-being.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates in wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more. How do you create warehouse superheroes? The answer is simple. With visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus. With record demand and labor shortages, warehouses need more effective workers and lightning-fast onboarding. Visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus enable warehouse workers to achieve superhero performance with up to 20% improved productivity and up to 99% accuracy. Hands-free barcode scanners from ProGlove paired with wearable mobile computers is just the beginning. Improved mobile interfaces with reduced keystrokes, easy-to-read screens, custom keyboards, voice-enabled interface, and more can be realized with ease on the leading WMS platforms. Sound too good to be true? Let us show you with our one-of-a-kind virtual demo. Visit ProCensus.com to get started today. Again, that's ProCensus.com to get started.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Ilhan Kolko. He is the Chief Product Officer at ProGlove. And ProGlove, I have featured a couple times on the podcast. I had someone from ProGlove on once, and then also I talked a little bit about it with one of our sponsors, ProCensus, who offers that as well. And I did do a little tease on my LinkedIn with the ProGlove as well. I have one actually demoing for ProGlove. I'm grateful that they sent one to me to play around with, which is really cool. So we're going to talk to Ilhan. We're going to learn more about ProGlove, what's going on with them, and a little bit about their technology, how it works, and some of their back end too, which allows it to be more than just a device. There's a lot of things going on in the background around insights and those different things. So Ilhan's going to tell us all about that. So Ilhan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Kevin. I'm really fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on. So it's great to have you on. And ProGlove, I think, is an awesome device. It's so simple, but it is so much packed into it that allows you to just enable employees to be so great at their job. So why don't you tell us a little bit about ProGlove, what it is you guys do for people that may not be familiar, and what it is you're all about?
Absolutely. We create industrial wearables to connect the human worker with the industrial IoT. And our journey started about 7 years ago when like 4 German engineers, our co-founders, traveled to Bay Area to join a competition run by Intel. It was an Industry 4.0 competition, and it was called Make It Wearable. And they were one of the runner-ups and received a check, and that kicked off our journey. And the first product they were able to build was the world's lightest, fastest wearable barcode scanner that you can actually wear it with a sleeve in the back of your hand.
Okay.
And we raised Series A in 2018 and Series B in 2019, and have been growing exponentially ever since. Our headquarters is in Munich, Germany. We also have a Chicago office here in the US, which is our second headquarters. That's where I'm joining from.
Okay.
And we also have an office in Serbia, in Belgrade. And that's been pretty much our story in a very, like a nutshell, in a small nutshell.
Very interesting. And I love that it kind of came from a competition, but, obviously there must have been something there to really spark the idea or think that there was a problem that needed to be addressed. So I'm curious, the founders, what was really the problem that they were seeing that kind of sparked the idea for ProGlove and really kind of kicking off that initial thought in the competition?
They applied a lot of design thinking. That was one of the foundation elements of ProGlove, and they were very observant engineers, and they've had interesting academics and professional backgrounds, all of them, and they were able to put together a pretty good team. But their main focus was humans. Like we've always been human focused, always been human centered, and the main problem, the main challenge that they wanted to tackle at the beginning was to eliminate the efficiencies that was, caused by the constraints that are in front of the human workers in an industrial setting. So that was the main idea. So freeing up the hands of the workers who need their hands to do their jobs was the initial statement that started the journey. So once, especially like in an industrial setting, and like whether it's in an assembly line in a manufacturing shop floor or a logistics area, like in the form of a distribution center or warehouse, whenever human hands are needed for picking, sorting, assembly, packaging, sequencing, they need their hands. And no one scans barcodes for a living. It's always perceived as a non-value add step in any process. And you need the data to actually flow, whether upstream and downstream, to actually further the workflows. And in that sense, like any time a worker stops to pick up a handheld scanner, that the ones that you might be seeing in supermarkets and such, and scan something, drop it back, they are losing the freedom of using their both hands. And they're also losing up to 4 to 6 seconds at every time they have to perform that task. So by putting the scanner in the back of the hand of the worker with a sleeve, and our scanner is just the size of a matchbox. It's very small, very light, and it performs better than most of the scanners that are out there. They're also very fast. Now you're able to save that 4 to 6 seconds per any part that you have to process as a human worker. So let's say you're in a manufacturing area that you have to process 2,000 parts a day. That multiply that with 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and you can see that micro efficiency adding up on a shop floor. Same thing applies to any logistics, environments where you need to be processing 3,000, 4,000 packages a day. That is a very, very meaningful gain on the shop floor, but it also, from the human worker perspective, your job is easier. Definitely make something that is non-value add eliminated within that process. And our workers love our product too. Like we get a lot of feedback with them calling our product like I feel like Spider-Man. I feel like Iron Man pointing my hand at the barcode. We get this kind of like love from the users, the human workers, the boot on the ground worker. So this is something that initially started, as human centered, has totally delivered on its value proposition at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing about it for me, coming from a warehousing background and being familiar with the different scanners and things like that is the hands-free aspect. And I think it's such a Such an incredible idea and thing to bring to the warehousing environment, because, you know, you mentioned the 4 to 6 seconds. I mean, you think about that, and, you know, it's not even just 4 to 6 seconds every pick, because you're, you know, as a human, you're essentially at some point you're going to look at your screen, and then you're going to get sidetracked, and you're going to forget what you saw, and you're going to pick it up additional times in between as well. And it's, you know, all of that is huge savings. As you mentioned, you're looking at 2,000 scans a day, something like that. Is, you know, add that up, it's money over time, lots of money. So it's certainly a huge push forward in that realm, and I love the technology around it in that aspect of freeing it up. And you know, I think the one thing about ProGlove that stands out to me too is that it's such a, while it's such an innovative and unique idea, I think, of creating this hands-free solution, it's also so simple in a sense, but it's such a robust technology too. For the user, it's incredibly simple to use. And I noticed one thing about you guys in comparison to some of the other companies that have scanning devices or wearables and all those things, is that, you know, they're focused on so many different things, but you guys are really focused in on like this core offering, which is the ProGlove itself. And there's, you know, a couple different models, but I'm curious, you know, how does staying so focused on that core thing really allow you to kind of continuously grow and continuously improve that device?
I mean, actually, by doing something so simple and straightforward, we found ourselves in the middle of very complex industrial use cases in several verticals. Yeah. And as we started to grow globally, as we started to expand into new use cases, verticals, and markets, the demand for our solution has increased, obviously, but the context is so different at every shop floor, every warehouse, every distribution center we walk into, even for the same company. The protocols are different in various locations. The rules, regulations are different. The way that connectivity works on that shop floor in that industrial context setting is different. So we started to write software to become more and more plug and play in any environment that we walk into. So we built integration to Android-based devices, mostly, like any kind of like a mobile computer, smart device, you know, tablets of that kind. We've also built our own IoT device, which kind of acts like almost like a router that is connected to the scanner via Bluetooth and then gets connected to worker stations, even forklifts in that sense. So we found ourselves in the middle of an IoT ocean in that regard. And that was, I believe, also became part of our secret sauce. As you know, you just go ahead and put the scanner on. There's no on and off button. It goes on immediately. Once everything, the configuration and provisioning is done, it allows you to do thousands of combinations or permutations of different business rules, like take this barcode symbology, if it's this, use this and do that, parse this value and send it to this upstream or downstream system. Some of our devices are online, connected to the internet. Some of them are like running in a more closed circuit type of a setting protocol in that sense. So we've created all this software solutions around the scanners, the wearable scanners. And we were able to keep the experience still very simple and straightforward, but in the back end, there is a very, very big and major establishment of capabilities that are enabled by software. So I think we were able to keep the solution simple on the front end in that sense from an experience perspective, but that led us building even more complex solutions.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and I think, you know, that's a lot of kind of the building blocks I see around really successful devices and products, is that it seems incredibly simple on the front end where the user is actually using it, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes. And it sounds like you guys have really, and I think, you know, founded by some engineers. I mean, it makes sense that you guys have really gone through the processes of how do we, you know, take care of all these things on the back end so that the end user, it's incredibly simple for them to use. You know, on that same note, with the simplicity of the use of it for employees, I'm curious, you know, as, you know, one of the biggest issues through the pandemic and still coming out of the pandemic has been trying to get labor in the door in these industrial settings, and then trying to get them to stay as well. And the competition from labor has just become incredibly fierce in a sense, driven, by a lot of different factors. But with the ProGlove itself, how has it kind of helped companies tackle some of these issues that we're seeing in the supply chain?
And it's definitely been an interesting phase, like for everyone, professionally and within our daily lives, that we've all been through it. And within the industrial setting, we're seeing more and more demand for our software. I think this is one of the things that was a phase that we were hoping to go through, and it has been really, the demand has arrived in that sense, because we're seeing that a lot of our customers wants to build more resilient, more future-proof businesses, more efficient processes, more than ever. A lot of projects came down the shelf, and we found ourselves in the middle of transformation projects a lot. And we're usually part of, all these kind of any kind of shop floor industrial setting project, includes a solution to barcode scanning and how do we gain more time and how do we make sure everything gets done properly. And I can touch on our software details of our software in a bit. But I think that was the key thing, that the data that comes from our scanners, our ability to contextualize the data for our customers has helped them to build projects that are aimed at worker well-being. So, for instance, for one of our retail customers, we are building a set of capabilities that help them with the safety regulations, that is making sure that the workers are not moving too fast, or there are not too many physical constraints within their layout, just because of the fact that our scanner is variable at any time by the worker. So we're able to get that process data and contextualize that data within the layouts and help them have better layouts. And then that eventually contributes to worker well-being. That applies to the same principle of workstations and such too. So I think the key thing is now what was more of an ancillary offering through our software has become one of the core offerings, and that's purely because of the demand, this phase that we're going through. Maybe it's hard to say post-COVID right now, but the days that we're going through right now, we're seeing a lot of transformation project demand, and we've been catering to that a lot.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I think it's interesting people are so interested in the software side, because I would think actually the hardware might be driving a lot of it, but it's good to hear that, not only is it simplifying the use for the employees themselves, but then on the back end, as you mentioned, you're able to utilize these software insights and drive really improvements overall in operational layout and these type of things that are human centric, but also in the same sense, from a business standpoint, a bottom line standpoint, and cost savings as well. So very interesting stuff there. And, with the ProGlove, we're going to get into the software side in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about the hardware first. So looking at these devices, and, it's something you wear on the back of your hand. It's a wrap, I think is the right term that you guys use, right? It's a hand wrap? Sleeve. Hand sleeve. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sleeve. And so it's like a sleeve, and then it has a trigger to it as well. And, obviously the core functions that stand out from that are the scanning capability, which is the finger trigger that you have, and then scanning from the device on the back of your hand. And then with the one version has the display on the back as well, which are kind of some of the core functions that obviously stand out when you look right at the ProGlove. But one thing about it that I actually didn't realize this until I got the demo unit and I went through the demo a little bit, is that it also has photo capture too, which is pretty awesome. I think that's really cool, and the quality is pretty cool. And so, how are customers actually utilizing that, and has that always been in all the different iterations, or is that something new and an advancement in the technology?
It is a recent hit, actually. We stayed in beta for quite some time with that feature, and like technically speaking, the scanners have scan engines, right, which are practically cameras that take a photo, but it's not like the same photo that a digital camera or a smartphone would take. Right. So the image quality is different. It's mostly black and white, and the number of frames that are taken to actually take a photo is way less in scan engine model concept. So in that regard, it's we were a little bit hesitant to kind of bring that on as a feature. So we started the testing process, but we've got we got into a very interesting use cases, especially with quality assurance and documentation, as it for what we saw on the shop floors in DCs and warehouses, we were seeing these workers just lifting up, getting a tablet, lifting it up and trying to take a picture with it. Sometimes they may not have a smart phone or a mobile computer on them, or the mobile computers are sometimes mounted on the wrist or on the forearm. So it's hard to actually get it pointed, have the angle to do that as well. So when the ergonomics kind of helped in that regard too. So we built very basic triggers to get the scanner into the photo capture mode.
Yeah.
And once you do that, especially with the display product, it's a little easier to get confirmation from that as well. But we are seeing quality assurance use cases and documentation use cases very heavily used with it. And one of the things that we also built around that is to have reason codes associated as metadata. So, we can also include that into your configuration on the device as well. And if you want to have some sort of like bi-directional worker feedback type of a loop workflow going on, that is also possible to implement as well. Now, what's happening is that now that we're getting these images, we're getting some interesting requests that are kind of going into the computer vision type of a realm, to be honest. It is a crowded space. Computer vision is a crowded space, and several features have already become a commodity. But I think when combined with our core offering and positioned as an ancillary offering that could solve problems on the shop floor, we still deliver a lot of value to our customers. So we're deeply interested in exploring more and more of like how we can process these images and help customers implement more even smarter workflows.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And I think you mentioned it's not the same kind of quality as a normal camera, but I think, looking at it and playing around with it, I mean, it's enough to capture what you need in these different scenarios. And I think the one thing I loved the most when I saw in the demo was that I think the one kind of use case that they showed me was that, you're scanning a barcode and it's not scanning. And then all of a sudden, after you try, I think it was like 2 or 3 times and it was not capturing the scan, it automatically triggered to then take the picture of the barcode. So now management can look at it and see, like, is there an issue with this barcode? What's going on? What's the problem? So I like the QA use case as well. I mean, I'm certainly utilizing tablets in my work experience as well, trying to take pictures of things for quality records, all those different types of things. So it's really an interesting platform all around. And I think it's very smart the way you guys are developing it, and even the photo capture and things of that nature. It'd be interesting to see how, like you mentioned, you're going to utilize those captures in the future and those different types of things, and how you can kind of use computer learning, machine learning to utilize those in different aspects. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys roll that out even further. So kind of, going back to the, some of the software touches and, the insights that you're kind of mentioning there with helping people through the pandemic or coming out of the pandemic. Talk to us a little bit about the back end, because I think people, when they think about ProGlove, they think of the orange wearable, but there's a lot of powerful stuff going on the back end too that people can have access to. So tell us a little bit about the software platform and how that can be utilized for looking into insights and different data points.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely, and I think we've now hit the tipping point as a company, going beyond just being a hardware company or a scanner company in that regard. As the software itself has become several interesting use cases and several verticals, and the product has proven itself commercially as well in the market, and we're getting a lot of feature requests that is kind of pointing us in the right direction along with it. But the basic idea behind the whole software product is that this is the wearable scanner is also technically an IoT device that has sensors on it. So we can, collect the step count of the worker, the distance traveled by the worker. Has an inertial motion unit, that IMU, that allows us to understand some of the movement patterns if we can educate that unit based on the process that it is being used. It has temperature readings, obviously needed for the scanner to operate itself, but then it also has the data coming from the device, connected, the connectivity device, whether it's our own gateway that helps you connect to your station, whether it's a smart device as well. So we were able to collect very valuable data points with our customers. And in the core of the software is time and motion studies, and that could then be repurposed for several optimization projects, efficiency projects, and it helps you redesign your physical layout, as I mentioned earlier, as one of the use cases that we use a lot. We're seeing some customers implementing heat maps along with the contextualized data that comes with the scan event. So any scan if data, you scan something, so we have that on a larger time series, right. And everything that happened before and after kind of becomes associational events with that. And then we can go ahead and contextualize that data with the process that it belongs to, location that it happened on, the sub-process that it belongs to as well. So we can see how many steps the worker had to take in between scans. If based on the scan event itself, we can create like custom reference fields. We have ability to collect data from our customers' cloud environment. We built connectors to our platform that can associate data, for instance, for an airport operations company that they're using it in their baggage handling, collection, loading, unloading processes. So they took our scan events, movement data. They are pushing the flight metadata to us for their cloud environment. And then we implemented a Power BI connector for them to visualize all these findings, and they're minimizing flight delays as a result. So these were very interesting use cases that helped us, grow the ability to process data and offer analytics in return. And one of the things that we were also learning along the way is that the raw data, exists in all these systems in a way. Like a lot of our customers have access to this, they have had access to this data, but it's in 5 different disparate systems eventually. An analyst has to sit down and bring it to a certain data lake, or maybe even sometimes on Excel, as a lot of projects are run that way still. But we realized that the raw data is good to have access to, but we built some narrative components to our software that tells you findings and says that in this picking area A, you had less scans compared to last week, or picking area B has been outperforming picking area C over the last 2 weeks. So we learned ways to process the data, and based on what the customer needs, they can also modify and customize these kind of narrative feeds that they get from us. We were able to build these kind of intelligent components that sits on top of the data and also tells you findings as well. So that's been a quite interesting journey, starting from a Matchbox size barcode scanner. Our ability to collect additional data from the sensors on it, our ability to contextualize it with the environment that these scanners are being used at, and our ability to build algorithms that actually make sense out of it, has been a very rewarding journey for us and for our customers. And we just cannot wait to see what's the next phase of the journey, as we're getting more and more into larger data sets and even more complex use cases.
Yeah, I can imagine it. And it's pretty incredible. I mean, what you're able to do. I mean, like you mentioned, just from the scanning and the device itself, you're generating so many different data points. And I think the key there is that you're generating these data points, but you're giving the opportunity for companies and operations to really take that data and make actionable decisions and be able to make business improvements through all their different processes. So it's really interesting, and I like that you guys are reducing flight delays. That's a great thing for everybody, I think. But so we look at this, and he talked about, being able to take it and bring it into Power BI and all these different things. So as you're implementing this, I'm sure customers are seeing a lot of things that maybe they weren't quite aware of, and then they're creating more visibility into these things. So I'm curious, when you implement ProGloves into an operation, what's typically like the first thing that jumps out to the managers or the leaders in charge on what the improvements they initially see?
I think the accuracy of the movement data, the effort itself, because when it comes to performance, it's mostly a metric that everyone follows on a warehouse distribution center, fulfillment centers, micro fulfillment centers, anywhere that is a process. You always look at that result, that is the performance side of things, because it eventually either becomes an order, something processed. Like there are ERP systems and such out there, but I think it's always difficult to really get into the finer details of how much effort it costs to perform at a certain level. We look at the hours that are put in and such, but like I think the key findings in terms of how many steps the workers are taking, what is the elevation level, what is the distance that they have to travel in between tasks. So like I think it helps everyone to decipher in a more of a macro level, where like you might have an industrial engineer sit next to an assembly line or a packaging station and such, and they can observe that for a limited amount of time, but having that on a continuous basis in a unified time series, and seeing that effort come together, and seeing it against the performance that is coming out of there. I think that's the one thing that jumps out a lot. The second thing that I think, one of the good decisions that we made with the architecture of the product, that we quickly realized that like we can build all the best front end for these kind of things, but with the amount of data we can collect and different combinations of permutations you can have, you can slice and dice them in a very different way. We wanted to make sure that we run everything at the system of choice of the client. So I think we designed a platform to be API first, and that helped our clients to mix and match these data points to the design of their choice, like in this setting. So I think that was one of the other things that helped us a lot, like the true definition of the effort on the shop floor, and being able to collect that data from variable scanners that are on the workers in a given time, and being able to visualize that data, analyze that data in the system of choice of the customers. One thing, and one thing that I'll definitely note as we're like implementing all these solutions globally, in Europe, in South America, North America, Asia, like I think there are different regulations and labor rules and such too. So one of the things that we also did was to anonymize the data. So it's always possible to, if the moment the data leaves the worker, it's anonymized in the sense that it becomes process data in that regard too. So we've gone through some interesting iterations to make sure that we value the privacy of the data and the workers on of this kind too. So we added a lot of capabilities that helps us do that in that sense too. So I think these were some things that we learned, and some things that we helped our customers learn. I would summarize it like this.
Very interesting. And I'm curious about the anonymizing the data. Is that something you can turn on and off? Because I imagine in some cases you would want to know individuals' productivity just to gauge their performance. Is that something the platform can do?
Based on the regulations of the facility, we can make it traceable or non-traceable in that sense, but we always anonymize and encrypt the data.
Gotcha. Okay. Very interesting. And I think what you guys are doing is great stuff. And, obviously I love the hands-free. I think that's like for me, that personally, that's like the biggest thing. All the other stuff is great too, but that's like the biggest thing, to make the worker hands-free and be able to just have that movement at all times without the starting and stopping, and the distractions, and looking back at the screen. And then also from like a safety perspective, if they're on the forklift, they're not almost like, driving with the cell phone. They're not kind of looking at the screen over and over, trying to remember where they're supposed to be going. So really great stuff. And, the software side as well is incredibly robust, it sounds like. And I'm interested to see how that continues to evolve as you guys find new ways. And I guess customers probably ask you too, new ways of looking at that data. So with that being said, what is really next for ProGlove? What do you guys have in the works? What's coming up?
As a company, it's growth. Like we have to continue our growth pattern. That's for sure. From a vision and mission perspective, we're going to stay human-centered for sure. Like we are definitely making sure that anything new we build is very human-centered in that regard, and our ability to be plug and play at any ecosystem that we walk into, or our ability to getting more and more like in a direction of digitizing everything around the work, or kind of like in a virtualized, like digital twin type of a setting even. Right. So you can run simulations and things of that nature. These are very exciting things that we already started our journey with. But I think the key thing is that our form factor is great. Like this is, and our form factor has been perfected so early on within the product lifecycle that if you go into one of our clients from 7 years ago, which are still using it, and then give them one of the new wearables or give them our brand new like charger.
Yeah.
Our scanner fits to it. So we have been
great.
able to carry that out during the generations of our product, and we'll continue to do so. I think our form factor will stay the same on the scanners. We're definitely interested in building new scanner features that are more, applicable to like extending the battery life, extending the range of the scanning, and making sure that, there is, less demand for connectivity layers, that the device could be connected to various other devices that are on the worker on that shop floor. So I think the key thing is going to be mainly focused on even making our scanners even more perfect than they are right now, and being able to collect and contextualize more and more data points, and making sure that we stay as a key partner to our customers' digital transformation journey. I think that is mostly the key thing. So we are now a more and more integrated product portfolio with software and hardware kind of come together in that sense. And as our commercial and global footprint continues to grow, we would like to make sure that we continue our journey with digitizing everything, but conserving the core offering that makes a ProGlove so awesome for our customers in the first place.
Yeah, very interesting stuff, and I can't wait to see how you guys make it even better. I mean, I think it's it's perfect now, but how you make it better, I can only imagine. So but I guess in the spirit of continuous improvement, what you guys are doing for a lot of companies, you got to always improve, right? So I would be very interested to see all the next iterations and everything you guys do next, and hopefully be able to talk about it here on the podcast in the future as well. So Ilhan, I want to thank you for coming on the show today and talking to me about ProGlove. If people are interested in learning more about ProGlove, how can they do that?
And thanks for having me, Kevin. It was a pleasure. And for everyone, our public website, ProGlove.com, has all the information about our product portfolio, the events that we run as well. We also use LinkedIn, our company's name, ProGlove. We use LinkedIn very heavily, and a lot of we hold digital events, in-person events. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue to do so as well. Also, we're going to be very active in several events, industrial events like NRF or Logimat in the first quarter of 22. They can follow our LinkedIn page or go to our public website, ProGlove.com, and get all the information.
Okay, great. And we'll put all the information on the newhouse.com as well, where you can also find my personal review and demo of ProGlove. So we'll have a video up there, and also a little write-up too for people to digest and really see how this thing works, and kind of the superpowers it gives warehouse employees, I would say. So Ilhan, thank you again so much for your time today on the show.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.